Let's talk about class library DLLs. We're going to actually create one as well. We're just going to give some high levels here. Now, a class library DLL, this is going to be a DLL that you can actually link to it in your program at runtime. Very cool that you can do that. You can reference code libraries at design and compile time, as you would as you're working with the other namespaces. You know that you're doing that with the system and the Microsoft Core library and things like that. So you're referencing those. With this particular example, you're going to be referencing and working at design time as well. So referencing and then linking. We're going to look at the CSC compiler, the C# compiler. Now, you add namespaces by using the using keyword, like using system, for example. We'll see that. And also, you're going to want to use a local folder, like C My Assemblies, for example. And this is going to allow you to just place copies of your global and other libraries. And this allows you to reference them in VisualStudio.net. You don't have to find them all the time. You can just reference them from that folder if you want to. We'll see that in another example. We'll look at the global assembly cache, and I'll show you how to work with your own local folder. And I'll reference that in this video as well. We're going to look in Primal Script. Just so we can see things, I'm going to use the command line compiler, and I like to use the Primal Code or Primal Script. Primal Code is more for C#. I like to use this editor just to show you how things are going, so you can actually just look at a text editor, or you can bring that file into the Visual Studio as well. So it's just nicer to be able to look at it this way, just as text. Alright, so we have a client, and then we also have a class library. Two different folders, client and class library. We're going to look at the class library first, and then I'll show you how to reference this class library after you open it. We'll just close some things here. We'll close everything. And then we'll just open up our add class. And you can see that we have a namespace called our library. Now also, just note that I changed the name from the namespace and the actual file that we're going to be compiling. Class library is what we're going to compile, just to show you the difference. You can still reference this as our library as the namespace, but the actual assembly, this is going to be called class library when we compile. This is just a simple adding class. We're just going to add things together. And then the multiplying class, note it's multiplying class. This is just going to multiply together. Just two longs multiplied together, returning that instead of adding two longs. No big deal. And we define them as static. And we know the differences between static and instance methods by now. If not, you want to consult those videos. So that's the library. Notice that the two class files are going to be what you have. Two class files, a class file for each class. And then everything's enclosed within the namespace. We'll see namespaces more in depth as we move forward. Then we'll look at the client. We could compile that from there, just to show you that you can compile from the Primal Code. So we have no errors, no big deal. And it's compiled. I'll show you where that's going to live. Then we have a client folder, just to keep everything separate, just to let you know. You can work closer together, but we're not doing that. And then we'll look at the client.pws file. You notice I do have a copy of class library there. We'll take a look at that, class1.cs, and this is called the client. Client workspace, but it's called the client as the class, and class1.cs is the name of the file. So you could have everything working together. You should have everything with the same names there. It helps a lot, and it just makes everything work better for you. We're going to be taking the arguments here, and we're going to accept two arguments. And you can see that if you don't pass in two arguments, this is an interesting way to do this, typical for working with arguments. If it's not equal to 2, we need exactly 2. Then show the usage. You need number 1 and number 2. And then after that, you're just going to return, because you basically don't have the arguments there, so you have to just get out of the program. Otherwise, we're going to convert our numbers to longs, and then use the static adding class, and then the static multiplying class to get our values. And then we just write things out, as you can see here. Write them out to the console. No big deal. We won't compile from here. We're going to compile from the command line, just like that. So we'll take a peek at our folder as well. And in our folder, we have the namespaces and assemblies. Class library. We're going to go and get that DLL because we compiled it. There we go. copy that, paste it right here. We'll just overwrite, and then you can see we have it there. No problem. Now we have to compile our client exe. It's already there, but we're going to compile it again. So we'll just type that in really quickly, CSC, and then we're going to specify our out file as the client. We're going to reference, you can put R or type out reference, class library.dll. We'll see more uses of this, and then we'll specify our source file. So we're referencing that class library, and it's going to live right here. I'll show you another example later, but we'll just do that. We compile it. We'll type in the client. We didn't specify those parameters, so we'll do it again. We'll just hit the up arrow, and then we'll put in 100 and 200. There you go. 100 plus 200 is 300, and 100 times 200 is 20,000.